transforming mind to consciousness. A journey from understanding to serenity to bliss. So, transformation occurs when we raise the vibration and we reduce the density of the mind. Now, the mind is very accustomed in our everyday life, and people do spend most of the time functioning from the place of the mind. So that is the realm of understanding and knowledge. As soon as a person comes to meditation, the practice is transcendence. To disidentify from the thought patterns, from the thoughts, by creating more space between thoughts and one's own awareness. So through meditation, a person is disidentifying from the thoughts, and thus the space is created. From that space, then a person can start to observe. So the consciousness rises, the awareness expands, and now the space of observation is available. Because previously, if we are following our thoughts, then that space is not there from which we can observe. So we have to step behind our thoughts into that space of observation. This space of observation allows to connect with the higher consciousness, which is the higher self, the higher awareness, and therefore more wisdom arises. So when we observe our thoughts, we're not following or identifying with them, suddenly we can see more. We have a deeper insight. So in Buddhism it's called insight. And that insight means that we are observing the mind from a higher position. So the first step of transformation of the mind is disidentifying from the thoughts and stepping into the space of observation. So right away we are transcending understanding, and we are in a higher position in which we can observe and see reality, and including our mind, our emotions, our thoughts, from a higher place. It's like we're watching ourselves from a first or second floor, if we make a comparison with a building. So if we're on a ground floor, we are just following the thoughts. If we come to the first, second floor, suddenly we can see more. The next step, as we come into the observation, is to go deeper and to expand the space even further. So as we spend a quality time in observation, then suddenly there is more peace in our mind. There is more space within us. And this allows for serenity to arise. Serenity is a tranquil peacefulness. Tranquil peacefulness when there is no thought, there is a sense of peacefulness inside us, and the mind itself is very serene, like a tranquil lake, like a tranquil water. So there's no disturbance, no waves, no winds in the mind. So serenity is still a quality of the mind. And as the mind starts to lose the density, as we come into higher consciousness, rising our vibrations, the mind loses the density and our awareness, consciousness, light increases. So therefore the disidentification from the mind makes more and more bigger gap, and we are transcending the mind to a higher and higher place. As we're shining more and more light of awareness and consciousness, the mind becomes more peaceful. It becomes more serene. And then ultimately the mind comes to a blissful illumination. The blissful illumination is the first step of Samadhi. So many of you have already experienced the experience of bliss, and that is when the mind is illuminated. It's a state of Samadhi. This is the first state of Samadhi. And through further inquiry, through further work with consciousness, then the bliss expands too. As the density decreases, the light increases. So this transformation is happening primarily from the high 500s, when we experience the first bliss. As we step into present 600s, the peacefulness, serenity roots deeper, and the bliss becomes higher. And then as we shift into 700s, which is the first enlightenment, and further up, then this blissfulness increases and increases until it becomes permanent. So a permanent state of bliss is called Satchitananda, which is consciousness, existence, bliss. And that is integration and the lessening of the density of the mind. So transformation from the mind to consciousness itself is happening through de-densification of the mind's energy. The mind is not only thoughts, is not only feelings. By the way, many feelings are still thought forms which are crudified. So the mind itself creates thoughts, and many feelings are also created through the energy of the mind. Not all of them, but many. And the mind has a density. So when I look at people, I can see like a little cloud, like there's a little cloud that every person is carrying, and that is their own mind and world view. This is why in many ancient teachings it is said that the mind is an illusion, or it is the veil, because there is a certain energetic density around every person which is a combination of thoughts, beliefs and energies that a person has accumulated and carrying with themselves. And as the person, through meditation and consciousness practices, lessens the density, then the truth and the light of consciousness starts increasing. Because in reality there is only one world, there is only one reality, and however separation occurs when this densification, individual densification, is being accumulated. And as we release it, then we come to realize it's just one world, one reality. and we have only been carrying our separate ideas and beliefs of what it's supposed to mean, and through the light of consciousness then we can see what it truly is. Reality has 3 layers or 3 levels. The first is the illusionary reality, whereby every person is carrying their own beliefs of what it's supposed to mean. Then there is the relative reality, which is the whole universe. It is the whole universe, it is real, but from the highest point of seeing, it is relatively real. So the whole universe, when it's functioning properly, harmoniously, it is the energy. The universe is energy. And with many dimensions and all the complexities and timelines, so the whole universe in its truest form is what I call the relative reality. So just to clarify, the illusionary reality is wrong ideas and beliefs of what the universe is. The relative reality is the actual universe, how it really is. And the absolute reality is the source, the consciousness itself. It's the absolute existence, beyond any creation, beyond any universe, beyond any energy. That is the absolute reality, which is unborn, undying, unchanging, undivided, even unmanifested. And once it manifests, it becomes relative, and unfortunately in the human realm there is an illusion of all kinds of ideas and mixed up confusions of what it is supposed to mean. But as we return to the actual universe, then we realize how it really is. So science is getting there, and consciousness, spirituality is also getting there, to see the universe simply as it is. It is not a big deal after all. From the higher perspective, and from the perspective of the higher beings or the light beings, the universe is energy and it works with the universal laws. However, humanity is in ignorance of the universal laws, and ignorance creates suffering. This is also, in the old days it used to be called karma, but in the current days with the rising energy it is simply called rebalancing and reharmonizing our energy fields, so that we come to the harmony with the universe, with the way it actually functions. So then we become fully functional, universal beings. So the main obstacle is the mind's energy. The mind's energy, which has accumulated the lack of knowledge, the ignorance, the wrong ideas, and it simply doesn't know. It doesn't know how the reality is functioning, how the universe is functioning. So meditation is number one. It helps to create space, to start to disidentify from the thoughts, from the understandings, to come to a place of observation. Like a scientist, we suddenly then observe, and as we observe, we learn. We silently learn. And in that silent learning, we gain wisdom. The next step, as we gain enough wisdom, then a natural feeling of love arises. With the feeling of love, we expand to feel that everything is actually connected. Through the feeling of connectedness, we come to realize that knowledge is not needed anymore, so we can actually step into a place of beingness, presence beingness. So presence beingness becomes number one priority instead of understanding everything what's going on. It's more pleasant just to be present and to enjoy it, rather than to understand what's this, what's this, what's that, you know. And then the next step is illumination. The awareness, consciousness illuminates and shines through and reveals itself as the truth of life. So, from understanding to serenity, serenity is attained after we gain enough of understanding and knowledge and wisdom. Then the mind is relaxed and it enjoys the sense of serenity rather than asking what's this and this and that. And the other step is bliss. And this bliss increases, the mind's energy dissolves, and only bliss reality remains. So these are the evolutionary steps, or our inner work. Obviously, there are many ways of how to get there. One way is meditation, is number one, it's most known. Through meditation we can come to self-enquiry, which is very effective, but only after a certain degree of maturity is present. And the fastest way is through a direct full consciousness transmission, because that directly reduces the density of the mind. So no matter where the person is, the full consciousness transmission directly takes the density of the mind and it reduces. So it's the most effective way known to the date that allows for a person to go directly to enlightenment, to the full consciousness realization. So there are many paths and many approaches. All of them are useful and needed. Some of them take a long time, some of them are very direct. Many times it does take a few years or a few months to disidentify from the mind at first, so that meditation and energy movement can be effective. And once the energy movement is effective, then the full consciousness transmission reaches its highest effectiveness. So also, just as a benchmark, generally speaking, when a person is in 500s, inner love, this is where the full consciousness transmission is very effective. In 400s, at the beginning of the early meditative states, the person still has like very rigid attachments to the thoughts. So that first attachment to the thoughts needs to dissolve through meditation or energy work, so that then the person can step on the highway of realization. Okay, any questions so far? Yes?
Some people, I think there is a part of destiny. So, the full consciousness transmission is good. When you want, how to explain it? Can you counter destiny with the full consciousness transmission in a way? Like if they are not meant to have to experience some stuff first, is it like a
Yes.
way to that?
Yes, you can speed the destiny.
Okay.
Yes.
Interesting.
Yes. It's a speeding process, and in your destiny, whatever is really meant to happen from the soul level will happen anyway, from the soul level. The other parts which we confuse with destiny are the conditionings. you may call it karmic cycles in the old terms, or you may call it disbalances and dysfunctions. So these, they do need to be rebalanced. So with the full consciousness transmission, the speeding process is to rebalance the dysfunction of the mind. And in terms of your soul, then your soul can easier manifest its true destiny. So again, in terms of destiny, the obstacle is the mind's energy. This is the obstacle from the perfect destiny. The perfect destiny is written by the soul, and the obstacle is the mind's energy. So now you will understand a lot more that there is a real destiny of the soul, and then there is the problems, conditioning, suffering, which are induced by the mind's energy. The mind's energy also may carry not only through this lifetime, but through the previous lifetimes. So that some parts are written in the DNA, some parts are carried through the lower bodies, like the astral body. So these conditionings are mainly accumulated through the fourth density dimension, higher, lower. The fourth density has two places, the fourth higher and fourth lower. So as our soul descended from the heaven, from the fifth dimension back, fifth or higher, back or down into the fourth, which is astral, etheric, and right down into the third, then it started to accumulate disbalances and disharmonies. So the past lives, the disbalances are mainly accumulated during the descension into the astral, etheric, and then into the physical realm. However, when you were in the fifth or higher dimension, there are 12, by the way, main ones. So when you were in the fifth and higher, you were free. You were free, whatever you wanted to do, and you were living in a harmony of reality, in the harmony of the universe. So you were consciously creating and choosing every moment anything that you really want to do, because you were one with your soul. And as the descent happened, then the crudification and this harmonious energy creation then started to accumulate. So this is why it's also very common that people in their early stages of spirituality, they do work with the past life regressions or with past life memories, because they are mainly through the etheric astral planes. But as the person's awareness expands and rises into the fifth and higher dimension, then it's just remembrance. And remembrance and learning and evolving higher, expanding higher, is no more regressing and reworking the difficulties of the past. So as you rise in consciousness, then it's only about remembering and integrating the universal knowledge. It's nothing anymore disharmonious or of a suffering nature that needs to be encountered anymore. So again, as you will have realized already, it's the density of the mind and this harmony accumulated through the astral planes. But they're being cleared out already, and most of you already have cleared out most of the accumulations in terms of the lower dimensions. So now for most of you is just about light and love and expansion of consciousness. So it's already the intermediate or advanced spirituality, which is truly about expanding and learning, and no more dealing with the karmic, heaviness and situations. So it becomes a lot more beautiful and pleasant and knowledgeable, expansive as you go higher and higher. Okay, any more questions?
So I'm just thinking, which is a very good thing, how come we went, if source is, love, bliss and harmony, why are we going through this test of, coming back to source? Why is it that this surge of negative, so to speak, energy ever began to exist in the first place?
There are certain parts in the universe where the lower beings have miscreated. As they were stepping down into the fourth astro-etheric plane, they started to miscreate through the ignorance or not knowingness. So just like a children should not be handled with fire and matches, the same way the not mature souls should not be given the powers of creation. So many thousands, actually tens of thousands and hundreds of thousands of years ago, some souls have decided to step into the lower realms and to create whatever they desired. And during that process, they started to densify and to disharmonize the natural flow of the universe. And then one layer after the other layer, the crudification happened right down to the third density. And this is known as a veil. And a veil has many veils and layers on layers. These layers are energy frequencies. The disharmonious energy frequencies which are not in alignment with the actual flow, with the flow of the universe. So these veils are energetic frequencies which are disharmonized. And in terms of individual souls, like the ultimate question, why do we come here and what is our purpose? Well, your purpose, and I'm referring right to you who are here and watching the video, is that your purpose is more of advanced nature. Your purpose is of coming here as a light healer, as a light warrior, as already an advanced soul who is here for the purpose of upliftment of the planetary consciousness and ascension, returning back. So through your soul, through you, the planet is anchoring the light, and you are assisting the process of ascension. Now, other souls who are young souls, who are very immature souls, and who are still young, their purpose has been to come here to the third dimension to experience the disharmony, distortion, and disconnectedness from the source. So that purpose was more of the experience of disconnectedness as a way of learning. So there is one purpose as such, and another purpose for more advanced souls is to come here and to assist the planetary ascension. Very broadly speaking, there are these two purposes of the souls. Okay, any more questions? Yes.
I can connect sometimes with my future self. I understood that it was actually there is no future, no past, everything kind of happened at the same time. And I can see in some way that it's successful and all that thing. So sometimes I ask myself, if it's already happened in another reality, why should I do it again in that reality? What's the link between that?
depending on what you imagine about the future or to which timeline of the future you have connected. In reality, there is the present only, the now. And the past, the future is playing out in the now. Your purpose right here, right now, is to return. It's to return to the source. Because then you will have the highest power and a truly free will. There's also a misconception about the free will. So you will have the true power of creation when you return back to the source. So, of course, when you look into other realities and other future selves, they have made different choices and different decisions. Maybe one of you has decided to be very successful in business. Maybe another of you has decided to be a scientist. But in this reality, perhaps you decided to return back to the source. So you have to decide and to see what is your ultimate goal. And through that ultimate goal, I will give you an answer so that it's a lot more clearer, is that when you make from your soul level a goal to return back to the source, that is like an insurance policy. It's an insurance policy and a guarantee that you will be the most, we could say, successful, or I would say the most perfect reality life that you can ever experience. So when you return to the source, your soul is fully reconnected and reintegrated, and therefore you live the most perfect life reality. You see the difference. If you make a goal to become the best scientist or the most successful businessman, that goal is good. It may give you either fame as a scientist or wealth as a businessman, but within you will still experience the emotional, mental difficulties and other disharmonious challenges which have not been cleared. So that is one goal and one path. The other goal is, it's a shortcut to your most highest success, that when you focus on the source and your soul, then you know that you will open up the highest powers and possibilities of creation. So if your soul was meant to become the best scientist or businessman or artist, you will become the best artist or businessman or scientist. Because you will create true perfection through the highest energies of creation. It is a shortcut of how to uplift your life, literally. So as you know, we have the personal charts, and in those personal charts we do measure the life experience, and the newest one, which I will start adding to the chart, is the life cycle manifestation, which means of how you are creating your life, on which life creation cycle you are. And obviously, reaching the full consciousness, you return back to the highest creative life cycle. So you create from the highest place, from the highest energy. Okay.
Makes sense.
Yes. So this is why there is a saying that if you can choose a desire, the best desire is for freedom. If you can choose a goal, the best goal is to return to the full consciousness source. because that will guarantee that everything else will come into harmony. Everything else, your physical life, your relationships, your finances, everything else will be resolved to a higher and higher vibration. It might not be easy, but it will be resolved, because the higher source energy will support your journey to the highest vibration. Yes, that is the shortcut.
That's the shortcut.
That's the shortcut.
Very promising.
Yes. And as I said, we are now integrating a measurement of life cycle manifestation, and individually you can find out at which cycle you are currently creating your life. And through the energy consciousness, workful consciousness transmission, that rises very, very fast. So some people, like even you know, just in a matter of 2-3 months, a complete changeover of reality. And when you focus very directly on your goal, then you keep spinning your life cycles up, 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 up. In my case, I was spinning my life cycle so fast that the actual physical reality could not catch up with my energetic vibration. So there was literally a gap between myself on a very high vibration and reality is like it's barely catching up with my vibration, and then it needed some years, some time to catch up with the high vibration. Because this also is a third density, yes? It's physical, it's solid, it's also slow, yes? Consciousness is so fast, it's beyond the speed. And since my own evolution was so fast that I anchored in consciousness, and suddenly my life, all around me, there was like a disconnectedness and a gap. And then I had to make a lot of changes in my life to bring it to a higher harmony. But of course life supported it because it is the nature of life to return to the harmony. So literally I also eliminated many possible difficulties of disharmonies, because life did not have time to create these harmonies, and life had only time to catch up with the harmony. So, you know, that was a very interesting period in my life where life was racing to catch up with my state of consciousness. But that happens through a very fast transition of consciousness. Okay. Yes, yes.
When you are interacting with other timelines, so other version of people, in a way, aspects of people, it seems like you are kind of talking to the best version of themselves on your level. So you're kind of, if you're helping the person on their aspect,
yes,
it helps the lower dimension of the same soul.
Yes, yes, yes. When you speak to a person, you can also choose to whom to speak. What do I mean by that? So when I speak with a person, I never speak with their ego. That's boring. I never speak with their mind, because that's also boring. I speak directly to their natural self. And sometimes I know it makes no sense to you, you know. Sometimes you say, what was that? You know, what did he say? And then you come back home and then like it hits you, you know, oh, that's what it meant.
It takes 4 years, like it was for me.
Sometimes it takes even some months or weeks or even years to understand, you know, what I say. but that is being said literally to your soul, to your natural self. And that truth, that energy is being transmitted, like it bypasses your mind and your ego and directly goes to your soul. So I'm not even much bothered, for you to fully understand, because my goal is to speak directly to the highest place of you, and through that speaking and transmission, then from that place it will be filtered down to your mind to understand everything when the time is right, or when you have time to process the information and energy. So when you speak to a person on your level, you can also choose. If you see that the conversation is just a chit-chat about the weather and it goes nowhere, you can choose to stop it and say, hey, let's change a topic. You can also choose, if you see the person is emotional, you can say, okay, let's calm down, let's not be emotional, and then let's talk afterwards, when the mind is clearer. You can also choose to speak to the higher self of the person. You can choose to speak directly with their heart. And you can also try to speak directly with their soul. So again, your capability of communication is also your own inner work. From which place you are functioning, and then you can choose from which place to meet another person. This is why also map of spirituality is very useful to understand that every person is at a different level of consciousness. And literally you can meet 10 people in an event, and one person is completely lost, another person is very blissful, a third person is very loving, and a fourth person is very understanding. How come? Because they're functioning from different places. And you can choose to which place to speak to as well. Okay. So realization of how the energy is working, how the frequencies, vibrations are working, will lead you to realization of the universal nature. I really like the quote of Nikola Tesla saying that in order to understand the universe, you need to understand the energy and vibrations. And that is very true, because that gives you understanding of the universe. And in your evolution of consciousness, then your light of consciousness can transcend even the universe itself. But the first priority is to understand the universe, how it really functions. It is very actually scientific, very mechanical in a way, very mathematical. The universe is very mathematical through the sacred geometries. But it's also very harmonious and very beautiful as well. And love and consciousness is beyond mathematics. So that you also need to know. Okay. Let's make